has published in journals such as Psychology, Consumer Psychology, and Journal of Consumer Research, Psychology and Marketing, and the Journal of Supply Chain Management. So his topic today is going to be Humanism Today, where he'll talk about how humanist philosophy intersects with the world in the 21st century and how we as humanists should engage with the world. So, Andrew?
Thanks very much, Jim. And welcome, everybody. So thanks so much for being here. Before I jump into content, I have a couple of thoughts about format. So as Jim said, we're a relatively new group, and one of the things that we've been pretty sure about in the discussions we've had among the few of us that are organizing this series of talks is that the focus is on discussion. And so we have the room until 5 o'clock. We have something like an hour and a half in mind, and we really want the bulk of that time, an hour or perhaps longer, to be discussion. And so my role is simply to spend the next 20 minutes or so putting a number of topics on the table that we will then spend the bulk of our time talking about. So with that in mind, I'd like to say that clarification questions are most welcome, but I think that disagreements, which I'm sure there will be and hope there will be, alternative points of view and extensions of what I'm saying and so on, will be best handled at the end. So I'm going to ask for your cooperation with that. Given the number of people that we have in the room, which is fantastic, thanks for being a part of such a large group to talk about this topic, it's great. I think what I'd like to do at the end is I'd like to organize our discussion a little bit by asking us to break into some subgroups, and I have a little protocol in mind about how we'll do that. So I have in mind that we'll sort of get a list of sort of some of the big things we might talk about, and then we'll vote for 3 or 4 of those and break into subgroups and talk about those and then come back together and report back. I think it might be a bit unruly to try to talk about everything all of us want to talk about. So hope that idea is okay with everyone. I think that's all I have to say about format. Any questions about format? Okay, so let me dive into content then. So I'm starting the talk with this question, what is religion good for? And I say right in the title of this slide, I mean gross good, not net good. So I'm sure if we were to try to agree amongst us whether religion created a net good in the world, that we'd get mired pretty quickly in a complex calculation about, should we include the Crusades, and what about the sex abuse scandal, and it would be controversial. So I want to set that question of whether they create a net good or not aside, and just talk about whether they create any gross good. Is there anything in the asset column of this accounting? And I think with that caveat in mind, I think it's probably uncontroversial to say that there's something in that column. It's not zero. The amount of gross good that's created by religion in the world is something greater than zero. And so here's some thoughts about what that good actually consists of. So it seems to me that religion facilitates moral teamwork. Dan Dennett has actually said a lot about this. Dan Dennett, the philosophy professor at Tufts, who's one of the 4 horsemen of New Atheism. I put that in quotes because, air quotes, because I don't think the New Atheists particularly like being called the 4 horsemen of New Atheism or having the brand name of the New Atheists or any of that, but nonetheless, that's what they're called. So Dan Dennett has talked a lot about some of these ideas, moral teamwork being one of them. So it seems that members of a religious group seem to be well positioned to engage in moral teamwork, sort of pooling resources, and in other ways being able to have a positive impact on the world by working together. Okay. religion also seems to create some good through community building, like by being a ritual center, a place to get married, a place to have funerals, a place to have naming ceremonies, by having counseling, right? It's probably a good thing that couples can go to a class about, you know, whether you should get married or not, or what the conversations you should have before you get married. That kind of a class at a religious organization, that probably makes the world a better place. If it avoids divorces, it probably makes the world a better place. Dan Dennett talks about religions as being a potential source of positive emotions, love, hope, beauty, joy. So if standing in church on Sunday, singing along with the choir, while you look at the sun shine through stained glass windows is a source of joy, then that's probably a good thing on a gross basis. Right? It's also the home of last resort. So this idea is also from Dan Dennett. He quotes this line from Frost from the poem The Death of a Hired Man, which says, "Home is the place where when you have to go there, they have to take you in." So hopefully most of us in this room have such a place, but not everybody in the world has such a place. And so religious organizations are that place for some people, and that probably makes the world a better place. Again, on a gross basis. And this isn't meant to be a comprehensive list, but just a starting place for us to think about what good religions do in the world. And where that takes me is basically this question of, is humanism a replacement? But I thought before we could start to engage that question, maybe we need, probably not for everybody in the room, but maybe for a few people in the room, we need to define humanism a little bit. So there's probably a lot of ways we can define humanism. But for the sake of moving quickly through this part, I'll just give a couple of definitions which are both from the AHA website. So the sort of the logo tagline for the AHA is good without God, which is the most concise definition of humanism that I think there is. It's 3 words, and I think it sums up the whole idea. The definition that the AHA gives really just elaborates on that idea, like what do they mean by good? And what they mean is that it affirms our ability and our responsibility to lead meaningful, ethical lives. It's progressive, that's what we mean by good.